Hello and welcome to the Youth and Children Agenda on West Africa Democracy Radio in Dakar. This is a program that tries to examine the effects of the Ebola outbreak on youth and children in West Africa with support from Oxfam. I'm your host, Alpha Kamara. During the peak of the Ebola outbreak, youths and children were amongst the group of people that were adversely affected. Adults aged 15 to 44 years are approximately 4 times affected in Guinea and Liberia and 3 times affected in Sierra Leone, according to the World Health Organization. And this is the category where youths and children belong. Youths who were serving as nurses and volunteers lost their lives. Some lost jobs because companies closed and fled. Almami Kamara is Sierra Leone's Minister of Youth Affairs. He recounted how the virus took the country by surprise.
Ebola is short a contagious disease that took us as a surprise. We are not expecting it. It did not start to us. But we are all Africans. We belong to a family. It started from our brothers and sisters in the neighboring countries. And we were not well ready for it. So it took us on a surprise. So there were many challenges. How to handle it? Our medical personnel were not trained to handle Ebola. When you come to look at it, countries like Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, we are all brothers and sisters. There are countries, all these 4 countries put together, there are countries that are bigger than all of us put together. You talk about, like we have in Guinea, Liberia, there is an area where this whole thing started, the Makona area, where you have the same people, Kizis, on one hand in Sierra Leone, another hand in Liberia, and also in Guinea. How much of a control you will have to put on people who are together, they share common values, they are the same people.
Schools and learning institutions were closed. Teenage pregnancy increased, while some children are now Ebola orphans, like Kadiatu, who resides in northern Sierra Leone.
For this Ebola, we been come, it can destroy people there in a pit banner.
When the Ebola entered this community, it destroyed lives. My mother is Asutoli, my father Asantula. I lost 6 of my family members to Ebola. Added to 2 of our relatives, we are now 10 in number. As it is, no one takes care of us except me. 8 of my brothers and sisters are in school. All that responsibility is on me.
All day so nobody will be saying I they take care of we. Only me not the woman.
But with all that, the youth took up the responsibility of helping their communities, putting their lives at risk to help the situation. In Liberia, for instance, youths mobilized themselves and worked with mobile companies to send out key Ebola messages.
The phone does not belong in your pocket. Take your phones from your pocket and use it.
Preston Vaye is a youth server in Liberia. He recounted what they did during the peak of the outbreak.
The Ebola situation in Liberia has had a great negative impact on youth in the country. Many youths have been stigmatized. Many youths in the country right now do not have parents. They've lost their parents. You have a lot of orphans now. And poverty rate is so high. And illiteracy rate is so high. And now we've had youth that do not have anywhere to get food. They don't have any means of getting school fees because of Ebola.
Michelle Abika says their efforts as youths saved the day.
Young people believe that Ebola exists, but others can still believe that it do exist because why they say, seeing is believing. And not everything we will see. So when we carry the information out and the awareness, we tell them that Ebola is real. We give them the rules and regulations that they should take. They go by it. So at least they're helping us a lot.
In Cape Mount, one of our counties, our rural counties, the issues about burial brought back the reoccurrence of Ebola there. There were no proper burial. So we also design messages and send it in that aspect. So that message has been went out, and we got very good response for some of them, and the education was very fine.
Across the border to Sierra Leone, youths and children suffered immensely because the country has a youthful population where about 60% are youths between the ages of 15 and 40. No doubt, their livelihoods, education, social life and all others were affected. Molai Conte is the executive president of the country's National Youth Commission. He says the Ebola memories are very bitter.
We suffer the most. It has to do with the restrictions that were invoked through due process, I would say, because the provisions of the Constitution made it clear that if there's a situation like war or such outbreak, the government will use its power, to restrict people from moving from one point to another. And I think the young people suffered greatly, especially when it comes to the social aspect. We were restricted from playing even football. Not to talk about in our common meeting points, after work or after school. So it's like the social aspect we suffered seriously. Academically, again, we suffered. Schools were closed. Colleges were also closed. And it was indefinite. And so young people were at home doing nothing, absolutely. And it's created a situation where we were almost thinking like we are going through the rebel war.
Mr. Conte also recounted how his colleagues sacrificed their lives to save their country.
I think that's also the other sad part of the story. I haven't looked at the reality of the outbreak of the virus. Young people decided to, step up just as we did during the war. We are volunteering, doing contact tracing. We were also being recruited as members of the burial team. And at that particular stage, you realize that we have very little knowledge as to how we can, prevent ourselves from contacting the disease. And many young people lose their lives as a result of the virus. And if I will give you a quantification here, I will tell you something like 65% of the people that we are lost, we are young people. It has to do with young people who are volunteering to help bury the dead bodies. There were also young people who were there to help do the contact tracing, especially when someone has been suspected of Ebola virus. We have to go around to find those who have already contacted that individual. And in the process, young people also endanger their lives. They lose their lives. And also, again, when it comes to the young nurses and doctors, these are young people. A lot of young people died as a result of the disease. I think it's affected or something like 90%. The 10% I will give it to the rest of the other sectors. Because when you talk about the attendance of university courses, it has to do with young people within the age of 18 to 25, 30 years of age. And these people across the country, were restricted from attending classes due to the Ebola, and also the schools. It also, what I would call, interrupted the examinations. Some were preparing to take their West African examinations. It totally put them to a halt, and so they were at home. Their faith were not clearly defined, and also, again, when you look at even the interaction, young people are so attracted to, livelication. And this also affected the young people in terms of even going out into our natural places where we used to go, like the beaches. We were restricted not to go to the beach. During weekends, we'll go out there to play ball, maybe to run around just to keep yourself fit.
Learning institutions where children and youth are trained to become future leaders. Ebola crumbled all of them. Belinda Isatukagbo is a guidance counselor teacher at the St. Joseph Secondary School in Freetown. She says Ebola has interrupted the school calendar.
Ebola has interrupted the school calendar. About 1 year now, there are some teachers who want to go and improve their educational background, but because of this Ebola, higher learning of institutions were closed. Even schools from nursery, primary, secondary school, university, no school. So many teachers have lost their life. About over 175, as I've understood, have lost their life. So many children and so many stigmatization of survivors and orphans. So these are all things that are disturbing the educational facility.
Belinda also thinks the outbreak has brought some practices in the school which are new and challenging.
Ebola is saying that there should be no body contact, there should be spacious, which is very, very impossible because of the role of the class. It is not possible. Ebola is around, and also the toilets should be in good order. We need personal hygiene and environmental sanitation, which we are trying. The children are dodging to wash their hands. We need to emphasize on this frequent washing of hands. Ebola has taught us that we should continue to wash our hands frequently.
Her pupil, 15-year-old Mariam Ashaw, also agrees.
We are asked to wash our hands frequently, avoid hugging each other, playing, wrestling. We are asked to maintain distance between each other so that there will be hygiene control, and we don't cluster ourselves in class. We sit 2 by 2 in rows. Even though there are some obstacles, not all teachers, some teachers are around, girls playing around, but they're responding in a very good way.
Ebola is the biggest obstacle to a country's development since the Civil War. It is therefore incumbent on us as a people, as a nation, and as citizens of a world that is increasingly becoming a global village, to ensure that we stand united in our effort in combating this menace, regardless of our political affiliation, regional background, tribal or class standing. We must all come together and win the war against Ebola. God bless Sierra Leone.
Go, Ebola for go. Oh man, we don't tire. Go, we don't tire. Stand up for tell Ebola, ta. Hey, Ebola for go. We don't tire. Go, we don't tire. Go, Ebola, ta.
Burying of Ebola corpses was one of the most challenging jobs in the response. Youths were also in charge of this, as government banned all community burials to reduce the risk of new transmissions and infections. Youths volunteered themselves to help bury the highly infectious Ebola corpses that were reported every day. This youth is one of them. Despite being a graduate, he took up an Ebola burial job.
Mohamed F. Tagbo, Safe and Dignified Burial Officer, Sierra Leone Red Cross Society. We in Abombali in Red Cross.
My name is Mohamed F. Tagbo, Safe and Dignified Officer of the Sierra Leone Red Cross Society. Here in the north, we started the burial process on October 19, 2014. That was at the peak of the Ebola outbreak in the country. We started with 2 teams covering the north. By November, we added another 2 teams, making 4 teams in total to back up the government's burial teams. Really, it was not easy because some of the boys were recruited to do the burial job. Most of them were driven from their homes. People ran away from them until when we rented this building. Just as you see, the compound is full. They were all rejected by their relatives. It's only now that it's better because now they can go and visit and they sometimes welcome them. But still, we are camping them here in this house.
At a particular point, they were stigmatized, but they kept the promise of serving their country. Muhammad again.
It was not easy for us, especially going through rough terrains and the stigmatization. People are stigmatizing against us too much. It is really dangerous because the Ebola virus cannot be seen. We took the venture as patriotic citizens to help our nation in this time of crisis. As youths, we got ourselves involved and faced the battle, which I believe we are now winning. Even me, just like how they were treating my boys, so they maltreated me. We do the same job. As you can see, we dress the same because I also participate in burials, even though I am the head. So they look at me as a burial man and they are afraid of me. Even my wife ran away from me. She stayed with her parents for over 6 months. She took my kids with her, cut off communication with me, and didn't even visit me throughout. It is only at this latter part that I see she is coming closer. I don't blame her. I know it is the fears of the disease. That was why. They say you should not touch each other. And if she sees me taking part in burials, handling Ebola corpses where the virus is very active, she will definitely be afraid of me. It was not easy. When I advertised for the position of Safe and Dignified Burial Officer, when I applied and told some of my colleagues, they mocked me and said, what am I doing with a burial job as a graduate? I told them I will do this job in the interest of my country, not because I'm a graduate. I will do it in the interest of Sierra Leone. That shows the kind of nationalistic feeling I have for my country. I know it's a plus now for us, because we are winning the war. If you got into the battlefield and you succeed in destroying the enemy, it's a plus for us, and we are happy. Because when we started this fight, our people were stigmatizing us. If we did not conquer the war, we would have suffered twice. But now that we have conquered, we can pass through the streets feeling very proud, because we faced the battle and succeeded in eliminating the enemy. It was really not easy. Red Cross, we had 4 teams, and the district medical team had 6 teams covering this area. When the virus was at its peak, our team usually buried between 22 and 25 corpses per day. We are not talking of the district health team. Just as you see my team is dressing, they are now going to the field. Sometimes they go through rough terrains where they have to abandon the vehicles and walk on foot to reach the villages miles and miles away. But we have standard operating procedures that should be followed by all burial teams in the country. That's why since we started this operation, no member of the Red Cross burial team has never been infected by the virus. We strictly follow the procedures. I want to tell everybody that we are doing this burial job for the love of our country, not for money. If we get infected along the line and we die proud, serving our country. Now that we are conquering the war, we want them to accept us back in the society, draw us nearer, because we are all the same. We are not working here for our selfish interests. We are doing this job in the interest of the state. So please work with us, because we are part of you.
Let us see, we say we all now one. We not can do them in your selfish interest, but do them in the interest of the state. So make them draw we back, let them feel say we are part of them.
Football, the most popular sport in the world, where youth gather to forget about their problems, also suffered, as even now, Sierra Leone cannot host their international matches in the country, and youth and children who rely on football are left in the cold. The music industry and other social activities where most youths find solace to forget about the hardship of the everyday life also suffered, as entertainment centers were closed and youths were forced to stay at home to obey the Ebola regulations.
Ebola is the biggest obstacle to a country's development since the Civil War. It is therefore incumbent on us as a people, as a nation, and as citizens of a world that is increasingly becoming a global village, to ensure that we stand united in our efforts in combating this menace, regardless of our political affiliation, regional background, tribal or class standing. We must all come together and win the war against Ebola. God bless Sierra Leone.
Go, Ebola for go. Oh man, we don't tire. Go, we don't tire. Stand up for tell Ebola ta. Hey, Ebola for go. We don't tire. Go, we don't tire. Go, Ebola ta. And who? Aha, la 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 la. You say the land that we love, our sweet Sierra Leone. Ebola don't break, we shake, we want fuck where we own.
Bokari Aruna, or Mr. Succulent, is a popular youth musician in Freetown. He said Ebola has put them out of business.
Definitely for me, most likely for me, in the October, November, December, I will be around in the provinces doing my tours, you know. That's the happiest time when we talk about entertainment, mood activated. It's about the time when we go out there, get our, you know, make shows, get our, you know, our income, have our royalties and stuff. So when the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone, you know, everything just collapsed. The musical, entire entertainment, even the football, not even we are affected. So many people are affected one way or the other, everything is just, But we believe that with our timely intervention with the fight, thank God now, Ebola will kick you out of West Africa. Definitely, Suckling is not just a musician. I'm an actor.
Despite that, the musicians also helped a lot in spreading the message of the existence of Ebola through their songs in the local languages. Succulent again.
Very, very much effective. At first when the outbreak in Sierra Leone, because people were thinking that it's just a money-making thing or it has to do about this juju thing. We call ourselves together as musicians. We do what we have to do because we have to pay back to the people. Our corporate social responsibility is one of those things. We have to come together as a family and talk to people through our music, spreading the message through music, talk to people about the dreadful disease that is affecting us within the face of West Africa. So we need to put a stop to it. So we need to come together to fight in order to eradicate this dreadful disease out of Africa.
Do you think people are actually listening to the musicians when you pass this message?
Yeah, for me, I have over 50,000 fans. And of course, you have been here. You know exactly the strength of Succulent when it comes to music. And there are a lot of musicians also. So we are the mouthpiece of the people. So what we say, the people just believe. So we just go through sensitizing the people, go to the provinces, go to the villages and talk to them, do one-to-one sensitization to avoid body contact. They have to wash their hand every day with chlorine. Stop visiting people. If you want to visit somebody that is sick, you don't have to touch. And when someone is dead, you don't have to even wash the body. You just have to call 117 to raise an alarm. And if someone is sick, you have to do the same thing to raise an alarm so that you can help by saving the early, the better. You can help by saving that individual, or you can call for immediate help so that the government can intervene.
Ebola is the biggest obstacle to a country's development since the Civil War. It is therefore incumbent on us as a people, as a nation, and as citizens of a world that is increasingly becoming a global village to ensure that we stand united in our efforts in combating this menace, regardless of our political affiliation, regional background, tribal or class standing. We must all come together and win the war against Ebola. God bless Sierra Leone.
Go, Ebola for go. Oh man, we don't tire. Go, we don't tire. Stand up for tell Ebola ta. Hey, Ebola for go. We don't tire. Go, we don't tire. Go, Ebola ta. And who la 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 la. You see the land that we love, our sweet Sierra Leone. Ebola don't break, we shake, we want fuck where we own. But now we know we ABC, avoid body contact, make we use them. We know say we for wash, we and we soap up chlorine, make we do and we for listening to Ministry of Well Body, and we know say the quarantine good for we. So we for listening to government and do
camouflage. Yeah, we not go tire for dread, tire for fetch you. All we need now this ways for eradicate you. You soap up chlorine, always for the wash you. You visit me family, I swear I no go touch you. I go call 117, then go can't take you. This is one way, so we not go spread you. Then picking the one go school, it's our say no. We put something behind, so this time we for go. You don't lose the battle, so shame and go. Then mommy then say go, the youth then say go. CJ Mark White camouflage say go. Even Godfather Big Bro Jimmy say go. Go.
We don't tire.
Liberia is now Ebola free, but the authorities are maintaining safety precautions. The virus, no doubt, is slowly exiting West Africa, with no new case reported in Sierra Leone and Guinea for the past 2 weeks, thanks to the sacrifice of youths and other groups. Now, most homes are filled with orphans and survivors who need care and support to stand back on their feet. With that, we come to the end of this edition of the program, Youths and Children Agenda, which looks at the effects of Ebola on youths and children in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea on West Africa Democracy Radio. This program is supported by Oxfam International. I have been your host, Alpha Kamara in Dakar. Thanks for your time, and let's all fight to get Ebola out of West Africa.